Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to special edition. My name's Donnie Glover. We're here with the one and only David Miller. David has been in the realm of education for quite some time. Let me share a little bit with you about his incredible curriculum, Dare to Be King. I remember back in the mid 90s, this dawned on me yesterday, David worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the co-editors of the Sandtown Winchester newspaper. Now, I remember back then he was teaching over at Calverton, and shout out in heaven to Mr. Alan Meacham, former principal over there at Calverton. But Dave used to invite me into the classroom. But he is considered one of America's leading social entrepreneurs. I had never heard of a social entrepreneur. I thought David was just making up stuff, because if you know David, you know he can tend to be a jokester. One of America's leading social entrepreneurs, elevating Black male achievement, and his Dare to Be King curriculum, encouraging men to reach for majestic heights in their lives. Dare to Be King is an essential tool to help young men not only survive, but to thrive through the many challenges that they face. But I mentioned the mid 90s because David, I remember an article he wrote specifically. It was called Hip Hop in the Classroom. And this was mid 90s. And even then, considering where we are in music, media, education, maybe the mid 90s was a tad late, but at least 25 years ago, David was on the forefront of bringing solutions on how to reach our young people. He's a parent, he's a dad, he's big on education, he's big on family, he's big on friendship. David Miller, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Donnie, to you and your listening audience. How you doing, man?
Outstanding. Are you a morning person?
I am not. I tend to be a night owl. While most people are asleep, I'm up writing and thinking. But because I still have a high school age daughter, I do have to get up in the morning. But if I didn't have if I didn't have a young person still living in the house, man, I probably wouldn't wake up until a little later. But I'm not a morning person.
25 years later, David, you have essentially three college students.
Yes.
College age students. 25 years later, you've taken your education from a Baltimore City public school teacher in West Baltimore. You've taken it to West Africa. 25 years later, you're more mature, more patient. 25 years ago, now I never saw you pop nobody upside the head, but you just had that look in your eye. You know how them West Baltimore cats are.
Right.
But I do remember you slam dunking the ball 25 years ago. Can you still slam dunk, David?
Oh no, that was when I was a younger man. No, that was definitely when I was a younger man. But let me just say, Donnie, that I am a son of West Baltimore, and I really believe that Baltimore has the potential to be one of the greatest cities in America. I've traveled to every quote unquote ghetto in the United States, as well as I've been to Cuba, I've been to the Middle East, I've been to the continent of Africa 10 times. There's something about the resiliency of people in Baltimore. Baltimore has some of the most gifted people that I've ever met in all of my travels. And I just think that in order for cities like Baltimore to move to the next level, it's really incumbent upon leadership. And when I say leadership, I'm not necessarily talking about quote unquote public officials, but I'm talking about, community leaders in neighborhoods to really begin to sow a spirit of collaboration in all that we do, in entrepreneurship, in the way that we educate our children, in the way that we fight many of the social ills, whether it's violent crime or substance abuse or health related issues. Like when we think of COVID, we got to get out of this siloed mentality, Donnie. If we are going to radically change what is happening in Black communities, like in Baltimore and across the country, because the reality is we're not winning. It may appear that a subset of the community is winning because they may be able to afford a certain kind of car, or they may be able to move out of a neighborhood in Sandtown and may be able to move over to Roland Park. But collectively as a community, while we have a lot to celebrate, we have some serious challenges that in order for us to address these challenges, we have to move beyond the current model and the current way that we see things. And let me just give you a quick example. I think we still tend to rely too heavily on secondary institutions, right? We still tend to rely on police departments, parole and probation, drug courts, and all of these other entities to solve the problems in Black communities. And I just really believe that the strength of the Black community lies within the moms and dads, the aunties, the uncles, the cousins, the OGs that are living in neighborhoods. They are the solutions to all of the social ills in our community. We just got to figure out a way to move in a spirit of collaboration. And then we got to resource. We got to resource up, meaning that we have to begin to fund more grassroots neighborhood interventions to address some of these challenges. And unless we do that, Donnie, we're going to continue to have this conversation around whether or not a police chief is effective, or whether or not a school CEO is effective, or whether or not an elected official is effective. The power still lies within the people.
Well, what happened, David? Did we get soft? Did the Greek letter organization forget their mission? Did the church move? Did Black people just exit us out of Baltimore and go to Randallstown? What happened to us? We were more unified, it seemed, in the days coming out of slavery. Our ancestors saved nickels, pennies, and dimes and built HBCUs. Now today, with all of our BS, MSs, and PhDs, and six-figure salaries and fancy whips and $700 pocketbooks and picket fence houses, now we're talking about, well, not everybody's made for college. We have an unproductive school system where everybody needs at least 2 years of college to get what they missed in regular high school. And then you got the pandemic on top of it. What happened to us, David? There was a time you could go into a hotel, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with, hey, look, there was a time Black people worked in hotels. We didn't mind. It didn't matter. But now we won't do certain things. We won't work certain places, and other groups will. And so they come here from all over the world, hungry and thirsty to be here in the United States. Then I go around the corner to Pennsylvania Avenue, the Avenue Market, and everybody's a pharmaceutical salesperson, or everybody's an addict. Nobody wants to work. What happened to us?
So Donnie, in the, I want to say the late 1980s, maybe early 90s, there was an amazing documentary series entitled Eyes on the Prize. And I know you are very familiar with that documentary. and just to kind of use that title, Eyes on the Prize, I think we've taken our eyes off of the prize. And I think a lot of what we're seeing now is a direct result of an erosion of values in the Black community. Donnie, I remember growing up in West Baltimore, attending Walbrook Senior High School. I remember there were dudes in my neighborhood that wouldn't even let me sell drugs. They were like, "Yo, you're gonna be a college boy. You know, we see that you got some potential. You know, that we not even gonna let you go down that road." So there used to even be a code of ethics among drug dealers in our community. I remember growing up. I mean, there was certain things that you just didn't do. You didn't rob old people. You wouldn't have little children out there selling drugs for you. And so again, I think it's an erosion of both family values and community values that have put us in a situation where we're in now. With the example that you gave about working in, hotels and places like that, my father just turned 83 years old on January 9th. And one of the things that whenever I think about my dad, I always hear in the back of my mind is a hard day's work for pay. I mean, these are the values that I received. Things like I remember when I was a teenager and I didn't like the job because I didn't think the people were treating me fairly, and I wanted to quit the job. You don't quit a job until you have another job. So there were some intrinsic values that were woven into the Black community. There were tried and true affirmations and nuggets of wisdom that our parents gave us about work ethic, about integrity, about having a moral compass that I think that we have gotten away from. And again, in order to get back to where we need to be, we got to radically shift the way that we see the world. And again, this notion that putting more police on the street is going to dramatically improve the quality of life in Black communities is insane. It's not working, and it will never work. And imagine if we really focused on community interventions. Imagine if we really focused on resourcing. So let's look at Sandtown for an example. Imagine if we focused on a radical outreach effort to improve the quality of life of children and families in Sandtown. Let's say we started in Sandtown as a pilot project, and we focused specifically on the moms, the dads, and the children, right? All focused on quality of life. I think that we could dramatically increase quality of life indicators in a neighborhood, but our analysis is wrong, Donnie, and our strategy is wrong. And so every couple of years in cities like Baltimore or New York and Philly, we bring in a new cast of elected officials. We bring in new police commissioners and all good folks. But if your analysis is wrong, it's going to be really difficult for us to do the kind of problem solving that we need to do.
David, wasn't the groundwork for the destruction that came with crack, wasn't the groundwork set before that? I'm thinking about Claudine, when James Earl Jones was playing the trash man and he couldn't be caught in Claudine's house because she wouldn't have gotten her welfare check. I'm thinking about policy which says you cannot spank your child. I think, and then they took prayer out the school. There was a bumper sticker we read back in the mid-90s. It said, you took prayer out the schools and now the prisons are filled. This is the result, David, of not only the erosion of the Black community, but the erosion of basic American values. I'm not saying go out there and hit your kid with a frying pan, but most every person that I know has a story about grandma and the tree out back that you had to go to for the switch.
Mm.
Now, I wasn't dumb enough to go out there and get nothing that was going to get platted up, but you understand the story.
Yeah.
My mom's was a terrorist, and if spanking your child is a crime, then I guess I'm just damaged goods. But Bin Laden ain't have nothing on Lily Glover, because if she told you to do something and you bucked in any kind of way, you were going to have repercussions. It was not going to be a peaceful night. But now we got other people. You got Dr. Spock and Time Out. David, would Time Out have worked with you?
Yes, and the reason being is because
But see,
you know, I had a
Time Out ain't work for me, bro.
I had a different set of parents, man. But Donnie, going to your point, see, this is the reason why we have to create tables. If they don't invite us to the table, we have to create our own table, because the reality is we got to fight on all fronts, right? We got to fight on the policy front, because we still, I mean, even in the year 2022, you look at many of these draconian policies related to criminal justice and social services. But we got to fight on all fronts, man. We got to fight on all fronts. But part of the fight is we have to reclaim communities. You know, when you can ride through neighborhoods in Baltimore or in Philly or in Chicago or in the Bronx that look the same way that they did 40 years ago in terms of, you know, rundown houses, garbage, debris,
Vacant houses.
that sends a clear message to people, and we have forgotten about communities, and I just really believe.
No, David, I would challenge you.
Okay,
I would challenge you. Growing up in Baltimore, did any black parent in Baltimore have concern over a bike lane?
No.
Do any black parents have a concern over a bike lane today?
Concerns only that they impact traffic negatively.
Yeah, they're slowing them up from getting their kids to school or picking up grandma.
Yeah.
So we now have a demographic in Baltimore who don't really have a vested interest here, who advocate a lot of money. I don't think they have kids, because if they had kids, they'd be spending their money on their kids. Maybe it's empty nesters. I don't know who it is, but it's these people that are pushing bike lanes in a traditionally blue-collar, working-class city, with people trying to get across North Avenue or get around Druid Park Drive to cut a few minutes down on the commute. But now you got time, space for these bike lanes where you don't see one damn bike. So we are impacted by this new cadre of people to Baltimore, not to mention the addicts who sleep in my alley who don't come from anywhere near Sandtown. They don't look like us. Now,
Yeah, man.
If you were over in Bolton Hill with a bag of dope, you would meet the police immediately.
Yeah,
but other people from Bolton Hill, their derelict addict relatives come over here to Sandtown, and it's a different story.
Yeah, man. We have serious work ahead of us, man. We gotta reclaim communities, man. We gotta reclaim our children. There's got to be a greater focus on family. We got to figure out a better way to support young families. Donnie, I can't tell you the number of calls that I get, and I don't get as many calls as many calls as I used to, just because my work has changed to some degree, because I no longer do quote unquote direct service with black males. Most of what I'm doing now is still doing a lot of writing, a lot of curriculum development and training and some other projects. But when I used to do a lot of direct service work in Baltimore with young Black males, with people like Richard Rowe and Lamar Shields, Cameron Miles, and a host of other people, the number of calls that I would get from parents who have Black male children as young as 7 or 8 years of age, who are able to already identify that their sons are absolutely out of control at 7 or 8 years old, just speaks to another dynamic that we have to address, which is, how do we support these families? How do we create a safety net for our children? Because too many of our children are falling through the cracks.
A big thing for me, say I were the mayor, and I'm not mentioning any political discussions with you. You and I have already established those rules. But if I were mayor, one of the first things I would do is I would call them reconnection agents. I would have people to reconnect these fathers who are filling up Diagnostic, the penitentiary, Patuxent, Hagerstown, ECI, reconnecting with their children. If I were mayor, I would also, Baltimore City Public School headquarters would be open 7 days a week, because I don't know if anybody over there notices it, but we have a crisis. And in times of crisis, all hands on deck. And especially if you're making $100,000 a year, yeah, you need to be getting some Saturday sessions and some Sunday sessions. Back in our day, David, we had Saturday school. That's if you didn't get it during the week. You never wanted to go because that's your whole Saturday. That was almost as bad as summer school. But these are some of the radical solutions that we need. We also need real teachers and real administrators who are not just there for a check. So I'd fire everybody at Baltimore City Public Schools and make them reapply for their jobs. Matter of fact, I would just redo the Baltimore City Public School system all over from scratch.
So one of the points that you made, Donnie, on the fatherhood front, my primary area of research is Black fathers, and I have a couple academic publications coming out. Just wrote a piece, submitted it to a journal at the Ohio State University, looking at Black fathers raising daughters. We are not going to win unless we address this issue of father absence, father support, father encouragement, father resources. Just finished and I'll send you the report. Just finished a report where we did a series of focus groups with young fathers in Atlanta and in a low-income community. And one of the things that came out of the research that we just did, conducted it with a group out of Atlanta, along with a professor at the University of Louisville and a professor at North Carolina A&T, is that there are almost no services for young fathers. And these were 18, 19-year-old fathers. Average age of the children in this group of dads that we interviewed, the average age of their children was younger than 4. These were young dads. Oftentimes, we are a society that's given up on Black fathers. Black fathers are under-resourced in every area that you can think of. Whether
I haven't given up, David.
Huh?
I don't think anyone has given up. There's a war on the Black family going back 500 years.
Yeah, I mean, when I say giving up, there is a war. But I also think when I say giving up in terms of the institutions that are supposed to be serving Black fathers. And so you find that we have large numbers of Black fathers who are growing up, who end up having to fight systems like child support and other systems. And then as a result of their inability to make a decent living wage, get the kind of educational support and other community support that they need. Then they end up hustling, selling drugs, doing other things, and then they end up into that other system, which is the criminal justice system. And it has become, it has become a vicious cycle. I mean, if you look at Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, and then there have been a number of other books that really look at how these systems manifest and how these systems continue to marginalize, particularly Black men, young Black men, and Black fathers. And so again, this work with fathers is another area that we really need to ramp up.
You know, David, I've never met Michelle Alexander, but long before she came out with a book, we had here in the city of Baltimore, brother Ellsworth Bate, and he's internationally respected and renowned for his work in terms of helping people behind bars transition to these streets. David, we've lost our edge. We've lost our hunger to be advocates. We've lost it. We've gotten soft. We're out at the rack. And I love the rack at Nordstrom's, but we down at Darker Than Blue. We on Instagram and TikTok. David, talking about mental health, when did it become popular for women to be butt naked on social media? I mean, isn't that a part of this erosion of family values you're speaking about?
No, it definitely is. This issue around media literacy.
You used to crack jokes. Could you imagine seeing your classmates' mama butt naked on TikTok back in the 4th grade? There was gonna be some jokes cracked and it was gonna be some fights after school. I saw your mama on TikTok.
Well, let me just say this, Donnie, because I know we running out of time, and I know you wanted me to talk about some of my books, children's books. Any serious conversation about our liberation, part of it has to be that we have to become masters of our own media. While we challenge a lot of the media that we see on television, the housewife shows, the hip hop music that is anti-family, anti-man, anti-woman, anti-child, we still have the ability to become masters of our own media. So even the stuff that you do, Donnie, with your various media platforms, you are challenging the current media. You're challenging a lot of the negative depictions of Black people. Even with the stuff that you do with Black Wall Street, breathes life into our community, so people understand sort of the depth and breadth and the history of Black entrepreneurship. And so I just think that while we challenge what we see on BET, we also need to support Black media, and we need to ramp up our own stuff, because we have the power to be masters of our own media. You on mute, Donnie. Donnie, you on mute. You on mute.
I got to ask you this one last question before we get to the books. Classism. I think that's a part of the challenge, David.
Yeah. I mean,
there are Black people who do not look out for all Black people. That is their mantra.
Yeah.
Don't go to them asking them to do something for Black people, because they give you all kinds of excuses. But the thing is, when members of that other community come asking, man, I didn't know buck dancing still existed. I didn't know people still did the shimmy, smiling, jigabooing. I didn't know that goes on in 2020. Did you know people are still buck dancing and selling out Black people in 2022?
Hey, Donnie, let me just say this, man. Really funny. And a lot of people don't remember this movie, man. I don't remember the year that it came out. Our dear brother Spike Lee came out with a movie called Drop Squad, and I would encourage everybody. I'm gonna leave it at that. I would encourage everybody to check out Spike Lee's movie Drop Squad, because it was a really interesting movie that really kind of talks about what you're talking about. Donnie, and I'll just leave it there. You guys check out the movie Drop Squad. Don't know if you can find it on like Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever the case may be, but it was a really unique look at that phenomenon that you're talking about. And see, for me, Donnie, I always want to kind of focus on what does our ground game look like? You know, how do we elevate the best of what it means to be Black in America and never forget where we come from? You know, when I pray with my children every day, you know, got a 25-year-old who's doing really well. My 21-year-old is a senior at Florida A&M University in Tallahassee. He just got accepted to the MBA program. And my baby girl, who's a senior in high school, 4.0, 1250 SAT, she'll be an Aggie. She's going to North Carolina A&T. When I pray with my children every morning, whether we're on the phone or we video conferencing, you know, I pray that my children always understand a spirit of paying it forward and reaching back. That no matter who you become, no matter what your profession is, no matter what you do, that as a family, as individuals, something that has to be consistent is we never forget where we come from, right? And so, you know, in the spirit of, you know, family values and just being the best that we can be, I don't think that we talk enough about our resilience and Black excellence. And what I want to show your listeners is a couple of things really quickly. I'm gonna wrap this up in 3 minutes, Donnie.
Take your time.
I remember.
I wanted to ask you about the book
I'm getting ready to go there.
No, this is a book you have not written yet.
Okay.
I know you got a book coming on Du Bois. Breaking news right here on BlackUSA.News. Knowing you done did a book about Winnie Mandela. You done did a book about Toussaint Louverture. You mentioned on the show that you've been to Africa 10 times. I'm predicting right here on this show that your next children's book is going to be named Du Bois. So
check this out really quickly. When I talk about Black excellence and what it means, you know, to be forward thinking and forward moving, I remember I wrote my first children's book in 2012, and I submitted it to about 60 publishing companies, and 3 of the publishing companies responded, this isn't a book that we would even entertain because we don't think Black boys read. So when I was told that Black boys don't read and the publishing company didn't think that it would be worthy of them to invest in my work or this children's book, I decided that I was going to publish my own. And this is the way of our people, man. We've always made a way out of no way. So years later, I've published several children's books focused mainly on Black male readers, some of our young scholars, second grade and up. And I want to show your audience some of the books who may not be familiar. Chef Toussaint, named after the Haitian revolutionary Toussaint Louverture. Toussaint is a 9-year-old master chef. And so I write books designed to inspire mainly young Black males to understand what it means to be Black in America and what it means to appreciate our heritage and appreciate the power of literacy. This is another one of my books that came out a couple of years ago, Gabe and His Green Thumb. This is Gabe Mandela Gresham, Mandela after Nelson Mandela. I also try to infuse elements of African and African-American history in my children's books. Really quickly, Donnie, I don't know if I told you, but
is Gabe selling fruits and vegetables, or is he
he's a farmer. He's a young farmer.
I mean,
he's a young farmer.
Is he in the cannabis industry? I'm just
no, growing fruits and vegetables. He's a young farmer.
I just had to mention times are changing.
Brooklyn's Finest is about a family in Brooklyn, New York, who have created an organic farm. So I do a lot of books. I've done 2 books on farming, and I can't find the rest of my books. Some of them are.
Hey, we've never seen this book before. Hey, we have never seen that book before. All that book back up. We have never seen that book before.
Yes, you have.
Yo,
Okay.
I
Okay.
got family in Brooklyn. I would have remembered Brooklyn.
Yeah, and it's in the Brooklyn Library.
Tell us about getting into libraries. How's that adventure been for you?
It's been it's a very unique experience. My book Chef Toussaint, I just found out a few days after Christmas that Chef Toussaint was voted as one of the best self-published books of 2021 by the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. So I got that distinguished honor as a self-published author.
So David, on one hand, we need the accomplished people in our community to give us these type awards. But at the same time, you're one of the few people that is reaching the quote unquote unreachable, that difficult demographic. Why are you so alone out there in this vineyard?
Well, the misnomer is that I'm alone. The reality is, and again, Don, I'm gonna go back to the earlier point, and I gotta run in a few minutes because I gotta do some stuff with my dad. We work in silos. We have become a siloed people, and because we work in silos, the old adage "strength in numbers" doesn't always apply. And I'm gonna give you a real good example. Oftentimes we go alone versus going together. I mean, there's one of my favorite African proverbs, talks about the difference between going alone and going together.
If you want to go fast, go alone.
Right. If we want to get to what Dr. King talked about, the promised land, we got to go together. And there's some folk that ain't gonna want to go, as you alluded to earlier. But there's enough of us who want to go. We just have to create the system. There's enough of us. There are enough Black entrepreneurs. There are enough people to do the kind of work that I do. But we siloed, man. We're siloed. I'm fortunate enough, because I don't work from a silo mentality, that I literally have partnered with in the past and continue to partner with Black and brown people all over the United States on different projects, because we've decided that we need to come together, because there's strength in unity, there's strength in numbers. And I think the downside of Baltimore is so many super talented folks have a siloed mentality that prevents them from really scaling up their work. So if you're working with 20 young men that are coming home from prison, 20 is nice year one, but how do we get you up to 250 year two? In order to scale, even if you own a grocery store, in order to scale, it takes strategic partnerships, right? Because it's easier if 5 or 6 entrepreneurs apply for a grant or a funding opportunity, as opposed to just that one lone entrepreneur. You understand what I'm saying? So we got to develop a spirit of going together. It's the same thing, even with the work that you do, Donnie, with the Black media, figuring out what Black media outlets are willing and ready, and let's go.
And if they're not, then we'll just create it ourselves. David Miller, just one last question. Would you like to be CEO of Baltimore City Public Schools?
No, would not want to take that on. Not interested. There are definitely some folks that are more qualified than me. But no, that's just not my interest. That's not within my bailiwick.
Good deal. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with acclaimed writer, Baltimore native David Miller. He wrote the Dare to Be King, What If the Prince Lives, a survival workbook for African-American males, thought-provoking 52-week curriculum teaching adolescent males how to survive and thrive in toxic environments. David, you've survived the streets of Baltimore. You continue to be a blessing. We're very proud of you. And notice, I didn't ask you any political questions today.
And Donnie, you forgot, today is my birthday, man. You got to take me to Amy Roof's, man, up in Harlem.
Today is your birthday.
Yeah, dinner on your dime.
I thought it was just your birthday last week. Some of you cats from Baltimore, you have like 3 birthdays.
No.
Happy birthday.
My dad's birthday was last week.
May your friends have lots of loot as you dance up on the table in your happy birthday suit. When your birthday comes around again this time next year, let's pray to God you're somewhere they don't sing like we do here. So sound the trumpets and blow the horns, for this is the day that King David was born. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you, Donnie. Be safe. We got to meet up in Harlem, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, be safe,
we'll
man.
Be back at 10 o'clock with William Hanna Blue with Black USA Morning Show. Thank you very much for joining us. And we'll be back tonight at 7 p.m. with the Black Business Roundtable from Oakland, California. Friday night, Kamal Hubbard will bring us Black USA Crypto News. Saturdays, folks, we have been picking up some programming. Saturday mornings, 10:15, live from New York, the Blackout with Tazmir gathers. 12 noon on Saturdays, live from Indianapolis for all you book lovers and fans of the many authors. Maccabee Griffin is coming with Beyond the Pen. And we just picked up a 6 p.m. show on Saturday, live from Miami. They call Miami the Crib. So we got Joey coming with the Crib. Special, I failed to mention that we had an opportunity to enter the metaverse. So now this show is on the metaverse. What is the metaverse? Well, it has to do with these $300 VR virtual reality goggles that you go into these rooms online and get to travel the entire universe. So special thank you to Dr. Tyrone Taborn of Career Communications Group, as well as Ray and Nikki and those people over there, Marsha Jews as well. The metaverse is the next step. Facebook would have one thing, that they are the sole heirs of the metaverse, and it's simply not so. Everybody, the metaverse is open to everyone. They do happen to be one of the first to take full advantage, but we're very proud to be on Career Communications Group, STEMCityUSA.com, STEMCityUSA.com. So essentially, Dr. Tyrone Taborn and his talented staff at Career Communications Group have put together a format, STEM City USA, where you become the Sims, essentially. And you can do anything and everything you want. And of course, Be More News and BlackUSA.News are prime beneficiaries of this STEM City USA. So again, special thank you. If you haven't, do check out STEMCityUSA.com, STEMCityUSA.com. Over the next couple of weeks, you'll be hearing more information about the upcoming Black Engineer of the Year Awards, Career Communications Group. They have been a leader in our community for at least 35, 36 years or so. No one has done more to close the digital divide in the Black community than Dr. Tyrone Taborn and Career Communications Group. If you've ever seen Black Engineer Magazine, if you've ever seen Hispanic Engineer Magazine, if you've ever seen the Black Engineer of the Year Awards, BEYA, they were held the first 25 years here in Baltimore. Then he moved into other cities, but I believe it's back in the D.C. area. It is one of the largest demonstrations of Black engineers, but not just engineers. I'm talking about Black admirals, Black generals, Black women generals, Black women bosses, Black women inventors, and that spurred a whole new product, which is women in technology. But nonetheless, check out STEMCityUSA.com. Special thank you to our many sponsors, including attorney Bob DeShield. If you want the best, then you check out some of our advertisers because we have nothing but the best. Special thank you also to Pharaoh for being quite calm today. Have a beautiful day. We'll be back at 7 p.m. tonight for the Black Business Roundtable. I'll be on WEAA tonight at midnight on Hip Hop Chronicles. That's every Thursday at 12 midnight. Donnie Glover signing out. Have a great day. Good morning, world.